Thank you. Happy dollars? Anybody?
Me. I've been a member of this club 15 years, and I don't think I've ever had anything good to say about Virginia Chatham. My hubby won the ACC tournament Saturday night, and so I have $20 to give because they've been in the league for 20 years, and it's the first time they won. My game. And if Charlie don't say anything, the Spiders won.
Yeah, I saw that. Charlie? You're muted.
There I am. There. Go Spiders. How about $10 for those University of Richmond Spiders beating Davidson, playing Thursday afternoon against Iowa? Go Spiders. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Charles.
Anybody else?
I have one. Happy to announce my wife and I will have our first child in September of
Paul, you goes along with some.
$10.
No, he needs to save his money. Yeah, that's the last 10 he's giving up. Okay. If you recall, last week we announced doing a fund drive for providing assistance to Ukrainian refugees. I'm proud to report that within 48 hours, we actually raised more than the $3,000 we were asking for to match the $3,000 coming from the foundation. The checks have already been sent out, one to Rotary International, which was the lion's share of the funds, and then there was some additional monies that were sent to the Moldova mission to provide support for that activity. I noticed, I think it was either this morning or late afternoon yesterday, that over 104,000 people ended up in Moldova. And if you've ever been there, you know that they can't accommodate that number of people who have no resources or very limited resources. So the money we've been able to send will be of great use for those people. So thank you for all of those members who contributed. And of course, it continues. If you're still interested in providing money through the Rotary International Foundation, if I'm not mistaken, any funds that are sent to Rotary, there was that link we all received from past District Governor Marie. Through the end of April, will go to a separate fund to provide support for the refugees. Upcoming meetings next week, Jackie Craig, the Green Chair, will be here, followed by Heather Cooper, Dementia Alliance. Remember the card buckets on each of the tables, please provide some money in those. That need never goes away. And then on the 4th of April, Judith Dement, who's with Dean Rotary Representative Network, she'll actually be joining us. I don't believe from Northern Ireland or England, but virtually, and we'll be talking about that program. This comes to us from one of our sister clubs in Bangor through a cousin of mine who is a member over there and also past president. In club and district news on the 26th of excuse me, 26th of this month, Lake Waccamaw. Tom, you want to make a quick announcement?
I will be there at Lake Waccamaw on March 26th. So if any of you want to join me, it's my first time going there, but it's and for those of you who don't know, it's a great organization and a really good cause to help disadvantaged children who live at Lake Waccamaw. And there's a special setup in there. Rotary has a history of supporting the facilities and the programs there. So I'll be there. Unfortunately, I can't carpool. I'm not coming from here, but I'd love to meet one or two of you there, and you get a tour in the morning and learn more about it. So there you go.
Thank you, Tom. Kevin, there you are. If you can talk about the day of service, please.
That's me when I put food in my mouth. Okay, April 23rd. So we have 3 choices. Hoping that you guys can help out with one of them. One of them would be Habitat Build in Southeast Raleigh, and I'll be leading that one. The second one will be a stream cleanup. It's the same stream, and believe it or not, I was really embarrassed when the city told me we hadn't been out there in 7 years. I remember distinctly going out there though. Lucy Inman, she's not here today, because she lost her cell phone. I'll never forget that. Somebody found it in the water and thought it was a huge find, but she was still, I think, 20 feet in front of us. Had dropped it, and then somebody found it. So, and it still worked. So we'll be cleaning that portion of the stream up. And then the third option is we're working with the Southeast Raleigh Club on a park cleanup. And so more details to come. I'll send out all the links. You'll have to sign up in advance, especially for, well, all 3 of those events. There's liability waivers that the city or Habitat wants you to sign in advance. So more to come. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Just a reminder, district conference will be the middle of May, 13th through 14th. If you haven't signed up, encouraging you all to sign up for that. And then, Tom, do you want to talk about the international conference?
No, I think we put that up there and people know about it.
All right. James is on.
No, I don't see it.
Okay. Also a reminder about the fundraiser, which will be on the 21st of April at the Lamontia Gallery over at the Village District. That's we had been thinking about doing 2 separate events on the same night. We decided that from a logistics perspective, that would just not work. So we're going to have one event that will start about 5:30 in the afternoon and go to about 7:30. There will be auction items. If you have anything that you would like to have auctioned on behalf of the Rotary Clubs, our Rotary Clubs Foundation, as well as Gift of Life, please contact either Linda, Elsa, or Christy on that. And it will be a time for fellowship, but also be a time to raise money for 2 excellent agencies. So please consider that. Membership.
Hello, everybody. Glad to see everyone here today. Hey, Eric, how are you, sir? So thank you so much for being here today. For all of our guests, if I have not said hello to you yet, I will say hello to you after the meeting. Look forward to having an additional first reading next week after we get your application in. So thank you so much for being here. Today, we have a couple things. We have 2 second readings. The first is for Philip Barton, who couldn't be here. Philip is, as a reminder, he is a current member of the Rocky Mountain Rotary Club and is seeking to transfer his membership to the Rotary Club of Raleigh, as he and his family are starting their transition to the Triangle. Philip is a financial representative for Northwestern Mutual. He's also a Paul Harris Fellow. He is super, I've had multiple conversations, I believe multiple people here have as well. He's got a great heart for service. And so very much look forward to having him transfer his membership over from the Rotary Club at Rocky Mountain. And then we have a second reading today for Brooke Haywood. Brooke, if you could come up real quick. Thank you so much, sir. Burke is being sponsored by Charles Edwards. Last week, I don't know if it was more of a force or a sponsorship, but we're saying it's a sponsorship. He is a former Rotarian, and his father was actually one of the founding members of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. Grandfather, excuse me, grandfather. So truly looking forward to having you join the membership. Just asking, what is exciting you about joining the club?
Well, the Rotary has always been a great vehicle for service and fellowship, but honestly, I came for the food.
Well, thank you so much. If you have any questions regarding Philip or Bert, feel free to email me, as well as email me with any additional potential members or people you'd like me to reach out to. We have a new email address. It's rotaryraleigh@gmail.com. Come directly to me. And then finally, we have our next service social. Is going to be on March 24th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Over here, it's downtown off of Martin Street. It's the Bittersweet. I don't know if anybody's been here. It's a great little spot. And it's actually going to be our opportunity to say goodbye to Gina as well. So if you have not seen Gina or haven't been able to say goodbye as she transitions and moves out of Raleigh, feel free, please come there, show her your support. She's a phenomenal Rotarian, has won multiple years of Rotary of the Year. So we'd love to have all of us come out there, show support to her as she goes off into doing big things in Colorado.
Yeah, going to them.
She's going to Denver. So make sure to mark your calendars, March 24th, 5:30 to 7 at Bittersweet. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, and do you want to talk about the new member orientation?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. We didn't have it up on the slide, but my apologies. New member orientation. So if you are a new member that was inducted in 2021 or 2022, and then or someone who has not been through new member orientation and be interested in doing so, we are having a new member orientation on April 4th, which is the Monday right before this meeting. So it's from 11 to 12. I know that's a little bit of a commitment from 11 to 1:30, but we're hopefully giving up everybody enough time to schedule in there. Should be a lot of good information of how to become more engaged, more connected to Rotary locally as well as internationally.
Thanks, Harrison. Okay. Just birthdays, Scott Hensley is today. John Canal. No response on that one. I'm so, don't be so long. Gina is.
I knew it was coming.
Gina is on the 16th, and then Lori Fuller is on the 19th. One anniversary celebration this week. Patrick and Jessica Riley is today, so congratulations to them.
Hey, Charles,
Yes, John.
is there an update on Bill Lambert?
Actually, no, there isn't. I have not, the last I heard, they were still trying to carry back and back.
He's still out, okay.
Yeah, but I have not heard.
I will contact Bill Sigmund this week because he's kind of been this person,
Yeah.
point person. So after I speak to him, if there's an update, I'll email everyone.
Right. And then, was it on Thursday that Debbie McNally fell and broke her wrist,
It
right?
was March 7th.
March the 7th.
March 7th, she was down in Charlotte
That's right.
and she was in the hospital for 6 days, had to have surgery, plates and screws, but she's back home now.
Right.
But both arms are broken, so she can't drive or anything.
Both arms. So please keep Debbie and Frank in your thoughts and prayers. Unless there's anything else for the good of the club, I'm going to hand it over remotely to Charlie, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Charles. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And thank you for letting me put in the plug about the Richmond Spiders. You know, they did win, and as some of y'all might not know, and a trivia to all my UNC Carolina fans, the Richmond Spider fight song is the same as the Carolina fight song. I'm a spider dead, I'm a spider born, I'll be a dead spider, something like that. So thank you. But I'm so excited to introduce our program today, Lee Pace, a new friend of mine who spoke at our capital investment annual meeting in October. And I just found it fascinating. Lee's a UNC Chapel Hill graduate from Chapel Hill. He drove over this morning from Chapel Hill to speak to us, so please be nice to him. He's written several beautiful color coffee table books, 3 or 4, I think, about Pinehurst and about the golf courses in North Carolina, South Carolina. So I'm so pleased he's going to speak to us today about his new book and also about Pinehurst. So please give a Rotary Club of Raleigh welcome to Lee Pace. Thank you, Lee.
Can everybody hear me okay? Speaking loud enough? Well, thank you, Charles. I appreciate the introduction and delighted to come over and visit with you today. What I'm going to talk about is this book that just came out last spring that University of North Carolina Press published called Good Walks. As Charles mentioned, I have done a handful of books in and around the Pinehurst area. I grew up in the western part of the state in Hendersonville, went to school in Carolina, graduated in '79, and spent 5 years in the newspaper business and 3 years in the public relations game. And in 1987, decided I wanted to go off on my own and be a writer, editor, publisher, whatever kind of living I might be able to cobble together. And among the things that interested me that I wanted to write about was golf. And when I started the Durham Morning Herald in 1980, one of my jobs was to cover golf. And I had just started to play, and the more I played, the more I wanted to write about it. The more I wrote about it, the more I wanted to play it. So in the 1980s, as the economy was growing and there was North and South Carolina created just a wonderful niche for the area in the golf development business, because it's the location, you've got the mountains, you've got the coast, you've got the sand hills, you've got the urban areas. It's just a very vibrant area for the growth of golf. And I established a niche with a number of publications, just being a guy in the Carolinas that they could come to write a story about Trayburn being built in Durham and Pinehurst National being built in Pinehurst, or Landfall down in Wilmington, are just some of the courses that I've covered early in my career. And in 1990, I had just begun to create a relationship with the new man, or the recently acquired management at Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. This wonderful facility here, this is the first time I've been here, is managed by Club Corporation. The precursor to that was Club Corp now, I guess it's called. The precursor to that was Club Corporation of America. It was founded in the 1950s by a man named Robert Dedman. He was a lawyer in Dallas, and he figured out that most clubs were very poorly managed and operated because a guy might be a doctor or a scientist or a lawyer or something. He didn't know anything about club management. So Bob Dedman created a company to manage clubs, and that it grew exponentially. And in 1984, he bought Pinehurst Resort and Country Club from the banks that had held the loans, because the previous owner, the Diamond Head Corporation, had fallen in arrears as the awful economic times of the 1970s had evolved. So Mr. Dedman, Pinehurst Management, was trying to reestablish Pinehurst niche in the world of golf. And this was before it had held its first US Open. It was trying to get a Ryder Cup, a PGA championship. And the CEO and president there, a man named Pat Corso, came to me, and I'd written a couple of stories on their vision in the late 1980s. And he said, we want to do a book on ourselves. We want to have a book on Pinehurst. Would you be willing to do it for us and to help us with it? And so absolutely, I said. So we wound up doing a book in 1991 called Pinehurst Stories that came out before the 1991 Tour Championship at Pinehurst. And I went around the country and I interviewed Ben Hogan and Sam Snead and Jack Nicklaus and Bill Campbell and Billy Joe Patton and all kind of greats in the world of golf to get their stories about about their connection to Pinehurst and what they had done there. And so that book came out, and it was a fascinating project to be. So that was kind of the first domino that fell in my career in the golf publishing business. And since then, I've done several more books for Pinehurst, and we did one in 2012 that was a very deep dive into the restoration of the golf course that Bill Curry and Ben Crenshaw did. And I literally am trying to come up with a concept and an approach to doing yet another book that would come out before the 2024 US Open at Pinehurst. But over the years, I've just developed a niche doing coffee table books for clubs or resorts, associations. I did a book for the UNC Business School 2 years ago to celebrate their centennial. My wife is a graphic designer, so we're kind of a turnkey operation that will come in and do a book for a club that has a centennial coming up, or a 50-year anniversary, or a 25-year anniversary. And all along in doing these books, whenever I get the opportunity to play them, I would always like to walk them. I've always been a traditionalist, a purist, and I've always enjoyed walking a golf course and trying to stay away from carts, which are manufactured and artificial, and in my opinion, don't really have a place in the game. So that was the genesis for this book that I started on in 2018, and was able to get UNC Press to agree to the concept. And so we did this book, and it's based around stories of 18 clubs in and around the two Carolinas that number one, have a good walking culture that allow you to walk, that are reasonably compact, that are not, there was a period in the 80s and 90s where a lot of golf courses were built more for real estate purposes than for the essence of the game, and the holes were stretched out to allow the developers to shoehorn more building lots, and they can be very stretched out. It can be quite a long walk from one green to the next tee. So I avoided those courses, but I wanted courses with some ambiance, with some tradition, with some history, with a good angle. And the idea was to try and find a member or a couple of members at these various clubs that could host me and would kind of be my entree to the club. And they would be like-minded like me, who would love to walk and who appreciated the game being played the old-fashioned way. And so the result was 18 chapters built around clubs, and these books that I do are generally 50% text, 50% photos. The photos are every bit as important as the words, so that even if you don't want to read it, there's some great photos and captions that can strike your interest. And so I had the challenge to begin with of coming up with 18 courses that I wanted to feature. And again, most of them are the older courses, classic era courses built, some of them many before World War II. And I wanted to hit both North and South Carolina, try and hit all the various geographical areas. I went to Asheville to Biltmore Forest Country Club that is celebrating its centennial this year. I went to Grandfather Golf and Country Club in Linville. Went to Palmetto Golf Club in Aiken, South Carolina, which is a great old historical club. Went to Pinehurst to feature Pinehurst number 2, Mid Pines and the Country Club of North Carolina. Charlotte Country Club in Winston-Salem is Old Town Club, which is a wonderful old course. And here, of course, I wanted to include a course here in the Triangle, and I consider Carolina Country Club, which is a wonderful club founded in 1910 with a great tradition of vibrant membership. I also looked at Raleigh Country Club, which was the last course that Donald Ross designed before he died in 1948. I looked at Hope Valley Country Club in Durham, which was founded in 1926, which is a wonderful old classic course. But I eventually decided on Old Chatham Golf Club, which is located kind of at the epicenter of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. It's got a great story because it was founded, and most great courses were founded because somebody at their current club gets frustrated because it becomes too hard to get a tee time. So they say, well, I'm going to go do a course on my own. And that's what happened with Old Chatham. You guys with Carolina roots may know the name of Paul Rizzo, who was a former UNC football player in the late 1940s, went on to a long and storied career with IBM. He came back to Chapel Hill in the late 80s to be dean of the Keenan Flagler Business School for 5 years. And then after that, he started an asset management firm called Franklin Street Partners. And Paul was in 1998, one summer day, he and a couple of guys there in the office, they were members at Governor's Club, which was a late 1980s course out in Chapel Hill designed by Jack Nicklaus. They said, let's cut off this afternoon and go have lunch and play golf. So they called the golf shop noon on Friday to get a tee time. We were told they couldn't get a tee time. And so this frustrated them because, ostensibly this is a private club. They ought to be able to have access to it whenever they wanted to. But Governor's Club had booked an outside group from, ironically, IBM, Paul's alma mater, to have an afternoon event there. So they started musing among themselves, what would it take to build our own golf course? What kind of money is involved? What kind of land do you have to have? And so that started the dominoes falling from their end. Meanwhile, here at Carolina Country Club, just up the road a little ways, they were landlocked, their membership rolls were filled, and the board of directors started, they had quite a long waiting list, and the board of directors started thinking about, well, maybe we should do a second golf course, maybe buy some land on the periphery of the Beltline or somewhere else in Raleigh and build a second course. And so they appointed a member named Stuart Franz, who was on the board of directors, to spearhead a committee to look at finding another piece of land that they could build a second golf course and have a satellite location to the Glenwood Avenue location. So Stuart started looking around and started looking at some pieces of land, and one thing led to another, and these two disparate groups heard that each of them were looking at doing a new golf course here in the Triangle, and so they got together, Stuart Francis group, Paul Rizzo's group, and they said that they figured out they were kind of like-minded and they had the same values and were looking to build the same sort of club. So they kicked in together and said, let's do a club. And they came up with a name called Old Chatham. They found some land in the northeast corner of Chatham County. It's very near South Point Shopping Mall. O'Kelly Chapel Road is the name of the road. It used to be a dirt road in the late 90s, but it's now in the epicenter of a lot of urban development. But it's so they created the golf course there. There's no residential, no commercial development around it. So I decided to make Old Chatham my Triangle area feature. And the gentleman that I decided to feature, who was a member at Old Chatham, many of you may know the name of Howard Lee, who was in the Jim Hunt administration in the 1970s. Howard was Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources under Governor Jim Hunt. And Howard was an outdoorsman, and he had the idea of building what would become the Mountains to the Sea Trail. He had the idea of creating a walking trail from the mountains to the Outer Banks. And it was just kind of a pie in the sky idea at the time. But he was able to get the ball rolling, and over a number of decades, that trail was built. It exists today. But Howard loves to play golf. He was actually elected to the North Carolina Senate in the early 1990s. And at the time, he played tennis but did not play golf. And he noticed that in the afternoons, the chambers would be vacated and there weren't many people around. And he started asking questions, and he heard, well, all the movers and shakers are going out and playing golf in the afternoon. And he said he figured out that if you wanted to get anything done and you really wanted to make some relationships, you had to learn to play golf. So he learned to play golf, took some lessons, and the golf bug bit him. And so he became acquainted with the guys who were starting Old Chatham, and he became a founding member. In the original vision of Old Chatham, one thing they wanted to do was to try and unite the Triangle and bring business leaders, social leaders, economic, education leaders together. And people like James Maynard, Jim Hyler, Tony Rand were early members of Old Chatham. Carmen Hooker Buell, the wife of the late UNC Chancellor Michael Hooker, was a member, and Howard Lee was a member as well. So I played golf with him 3 years or so ago, and he was 84 at the time. He still walked 18 holes, carried his own bag, and he was just a wonderful companion. A couple times we played and just talked about the essence of being out in nature, of getting exercise, of experiencing the course by foot. And he made a great comment one day. He was talking about the new golf carts that they got at Old Chatham, and how there was a little connection on your cart that you could plug in your power mode, and you could, if your phone was running low on power, you could recharge your phone while you were on the golf course. And Howard said, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Isn't the whole purpose of being out here is to get away from your damn phone and your computer and everything else? Get out here and just luxuriate in nature. And I couldn't have agreed with him more. But Howard and some of these other people that I met at other clubs, we all kind of sing from the same hymnal, in that we just like the old school way of playing. We like getting the exercise. We like feeling the ground underneath our feet. We like being able to, you can zone in and zone out while you're playing. You can focus on your shot, but then you just strap the bag back on your shoulder and you walk your next shot, and you can have a conversation with the guys that you're playing with. Or if you're aggravated over the last shot, you can just kind of stew in your own juices for a few minutes. You can just look at the architecture. You can try and figure out what the architect had in mind. Why did he put this bunker here? Why did he do this? You can see the angles. You just get so much out of it. If you're playing with four guys and all of you are walking, you get to talk with everybody in your group, rather than just basically talk with the guy that you're riding with. And there's just nothing like the good tire that you feel after walking 18 holes and carrying your bag or pushing a pull cart or pulling a pull cart. And over the years, there was a period in golf in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, as the golf industry began to understand the revenue that they could make through renting carts, that a lot of courses became cart only, where you had to rent a golf cart to play. And so that's kind of come full circle. And fortunately now, most places are allowing you to choose how you want to play, which is the way it ought to be. If you're, if you've had an injury or you're older and you can't enjoy the experience without some help, then that's fine. I understand that. But if you have the ability to walk, I would encourage you, if you haven't gotten in the habit of it, to experiment with that, because it's just a lot of fun and it gives you a totally different perspective on the game. So that's what happened with this book. I had a great time writing it and meeting a lot of people. I met a lot of older guys. Like Bill Clement is a member of the Country Club of North Carolina. He's 77 years old. Tommy Brenton is a member of the Dunes Club down in Myrtle Beach, and he's near 70 years old now. These are all guys who would, they'll do everything they can to get out of riding a cart because they just enjoy the experience of walking the golf course and experiencing the game the way it was meant to be played. And I enjoyed getting to know some clubs that I did not know otherwise. And Pinehurst is a great example of how things have evolved over so many years. Back in the 80s and 90s, they had what they called the Pinehurst Walking Club, where that was for members only. And at a certain time, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on weekdays, if you were a member of this walking club, they would allow you to walk. Otherwise, you had to take a cart or take a caddy. And so, but now things have come full circle, and it doesn't matter if you're a member, if you're a resort guest, and it doesn't matter the time of day, whether it's weekend, the season, they allow you to walk, to take a caddy, to carry your own bag, or to rent a car, however you'd like to. And 2 of their courses there, the 2 premier courses, number 2 and number 4, both of them restrict golf carts to the extremity of the holes, because they don't want golf carts on the fairways, and they have what they call the natural areas between the fairways and the cart paths that are hard pan sand, they're wiregrass, they're pine cones, and they don't want golf carts running through these areas and destroying the ambiance and the maintenance there. So they keep the golf carts restricted to the paths. And so if you are riding Pinehurst number 2, you're essentially experiencing the course from the extremity of the hole. You hit your tee shot, you get in the cart, you drive 200, 250 yards, you grab 2 or 3 clubs, you walk in the center of the fairway, you walk back to the cart, you drive up to the green. And you just don't experience the entire look and feel of the golf course. And 3 major resorts I featured in here. I featured Kiowa Resort, which is home of the Ocean Course, which is held the PGA Championship and the Ryder Cup. I featured Sea Pines Plantation, which is the home of Harbortown Golf Links, which is the site of the annual Harbortown Classic, and Pinehurst. And all of them now give unlimited access to resort guests, to members, to choose however you want to play the golf course. COVID has had a lot to do with revitalizing the walking game, and the golf has really exploded since COVID hit, because it's something you can do outside. It was socially distant. Early on when COVID hit, exactly 2 years ago, as courses reopened, a lot of them restricted one person to a cart or no carts at all. So a lot of people had to say, well, if I'm going to play golf, I'm going to have to walk. And so a lot of people got reintroduced to the walking game during COVID. And I was, one of my projects right now, I'm doing a centennial book for Biltmore Forest for their centennial. And I was there last summer, and they have got an entire room down in the basement of the club that is for members' pull carts or trolleys. They call them trolleys in the United Kingdom. We call them push carts or pull carts there. But there were over 100 members' golf carts, trolleys being stored there. And that's just how many. Biltmore Forest actually has more than 50% of their play is people walking the golf course instead of carts. And Biltmore Forest, interestingly, was one of the very first golf carts was conceived and manufactured in the 1930s at Biltmore Forest because an older man named Lyman Beecher, he was an attorney, and he got to where he couldn't walk the golf course anymore. It's a very hilly course. So he took a wooden office chair, had it welded to a wooden plank, added some metal wheels attached to it, had a pull trolley attached to it. And so he would sit on this chair and have a couple of caddies pull him around the golf course. And eventually he decided to put a motor on it, but the motor became too loud and a lot of people complained about it. So he actually never was able to gain any momentum, but at that time, several other people had the idea to create motorized golf carts. And so that's where the golf course industry was started from. And I had a great story, the epilogue to this. I wrote much of this book and finished it about 2019 before COVID. And then I wrote the epilogue to it the year after that, after COVID had been in for a year or so. And I tied up the epilogue with a quote from Chip King, who's the director of golf at Grandfather Golf and Country Club. And Chip said that the membership there had just taken to walking and that he himself had not been in a golf cart in over 9 months. And he said, I fell in love with golf all over again. Just enjoying the golf course the way it was meant to be played. So this is the book. I have this great idea. I'd love to clone this idea and do some other books along this line, maybe go to Scotland or Ireland and do some similar approaches. But this book is available through UNC Press. You can find it bookstores around here. I think Quail Ridge has it, probably any Barnes and Nobles. You can go online, you can get it through Amazon. And I brought a few of them here in my bag that if you want one, I'd be happy to get you one today while you're here. But I would just encourage you, if you have not tried the walking game, the walking spirit, to get you a cut down golf bag. You can find them 3 pounds, hardly weigh anything. Cut down from 14 clubs to maybe 10 or 11. Slap it on your shoulder and go out and walk 9 holes and just see how you like it. I think you'll see an entirely new experience, and hopefully it might open up a new world to you. So I know it's lunchtime, people need to get on to other things, but if I have a few minutes, anybody would like to ask any questions, I'd be happy to help you. And thank you for having me. Yes, John.
Lee, I think this is great. You sort of anticipated my question right then when you mentioned lightweight carry bags. What do you use? What goes on your shoulder when you're playing?
I'm a little bit of a golf bag nut, but there's a company called Jones Golf Bag Company. They make one that is 3 pounds called the Player Series. That's one I use. There's a company in California called the Flag Bag Company that they make custom bags out of pin flags from a golf course. You can send them a pin flag and they will make you a bag out of it. Stitch Golf, which is a Raleigh-based company, makes a really great bag. It weighs just a hair more than the Jones bag, and every pound counts. But those are several of them that I like. But look for something 3 pounds.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Eric.
All right, so I'm definitely gonna read this book now because I've been golfing exactly twice. And first time was with my uncles during a baby shower. They were getting drunk and I was like 8. And the second time was at my buddy's bachelor party. We went golfing and just got drunk. So this sounds completely different, and it sounds like the reason why people do fall in love with golf. And so I thank you for your outlook, because I've never looked at golf in this type of way. I have always known that it's a way to make connections with people, but this, like actually walking the 18 or 9 holes is definitely a new outlet. So thank you.
Well, you make a good point that, golf is what you make it to be, and there are a lot of different ways to enjoy it. A lot of people like to gamble and spend a lot of money on it. A lot of people, some people like to play music while they play golf, and I don't begrudge anybody playing golf the way they enjoy it, but this is the way I enjoy it, and, enjoy a cold beverage after the round, but, while I'm playing, I'll have some ice water, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's a underrated or maybe hidden gem in the Carolinas, of course, maybe isn't the top people's list that you found that you think is really exceptional.
One thing I did in here was I did have a chapter on municipal golf courses. One of which I would highlight is Wilmington Municipal. Down in Wilmington.
Been there many times, yeah.
It has been restored in the last 5 or 6 years. It is outstanding. I've enjoyed going over to the RGA here, which is a McConnell property, and it's very well managed now. Hillendale over in Durham. Charleston Municipal is a terrific layout. It's been restored. There's been a lot of interest in money putting back into restoring a lot of municipal courses. And, one of the best, it's not a municipal course, it's Tobacco Road down in Pinehurst is a unique experience. It's not as much a hidden gem anymore because it's gotten so much attention lately, but those are just a few I would name. Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to say I actually shot an 82 at Pinehurst, but I did much better on the back.
Yeah, this is probably a dumb question. I'm not a golfer, but this has inspired me to go with my husband sometime who loves to golf. How much longer does it take to walk a course as opposed to using a golf cart?
That's a great question. A lot of people wonder that. Actually, walking a golf course can be quicker than riding, because after you hit your tee shots, you disperse. You got 4 people walking to their ball. They're preparing to hit, as opposed to 2 people having to ride to one ball, the second guy having to wait for the cart then to go to his ball. Now, I'm not going to lie, that a single person in a cart playing by himself, if the course is wide open, you can zip right around. But for the most part, walking does not take longer because everybody is moving at the same time. And it is not significantly longer to walk. And in fact, studies have been done that, I play at Old Chatham myself, and 4 of us walking on an average afternoon can finish in under 4 hours. So it's no longer really.
So if you like hiking, then.
Yeah.
I've been playing golf for more than 40 years. I'm stop over that a bunch of days, so that's where I play now. Usually I'm the youngest guy playing on Thursdays, and I'm in my 70s. But the thing that I've learned over this 40 years, and I share this with guys, when I used to go out playing, if they have a bad experience, which occasionally you'll fall on the water or something like that. I said, don't worry about it. The magic of golf, the secret of golf is, if you play consistently for at least 10 years, you have no worries of going to hell or at the top.
I would agree with that.
We've actually got a question via Zoom from Braxton.
Hey, Lee, I just wanted to say my father, who was a longtime member, Braxton Wilson, as well, you and him were kind of long lost brothers. When I was growing up, we were the only family that would play and walk. And he insisted that we always walked, even when I was a little brat, and thought, why can't I get in a cart and be the cool guy? Now that I'm older, I realize what he was trying to teach me. And the quote he would always hammer in my head was, walking makes it a sport. So I thought you would enjoy that. Thank you.
Very, very much. Very much.
Sir,
When you go and play 18 holes, how many miles of walking do you get in such an afternoon?
Right about 6. And every time I play, I will set my iPhone to track my round. And for example, last Sunday, March 6th, I played at Old Chatham. I walked 5.87 miles, burned 704 calories.
Depends on how bad you spray it, right? You can get over 7 or 8 miles. Any other questions for Lee? All right, thank you very much. Okay, just a few reminders, the social service next Thursday, we will unfortunately say goodbye to Gina, who's headed out west to Denver, but also don't forget to bring snacks and drinks for snacks for the kids. Burke, thank you for coming back to the club.
Thanks for the chat.
Whatever we can do. For those who are interested in carpooling or whatever, Tom will be there. So if you guys can figure that one out, that'd be great. I'll be in Florida at a conference, so won't be able to go. And then Charlie, thank you for bringing Lee to us. That was a fascinating, almost wanted to get back playing golf, but then again, I would be probably doing 14 miles. And that would be on 9. So with that, we please rise for the 4-way test. Of all the things we say and do, first is the truth. Second, is the care of all concerned. Third, will build goodwill and relationships. Fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Charles.
Thanks, Charlie.